Hello and welcome back to another video for the bipolar ice caps. Feels good to be back after about a month and a half. I got three stories for you, and they illustrate one point, and one point alone. And it is that we are in the current year. And as such, there are many ideas floating around. This one, first article comes to us from Vice News. The title is We Can't Have a Feminist Future Without Abolishing the Family. So I'm going to skip over the first paragraph because it talks about, like, how her mother died and stuff. I don't really care. So her premise, so this lady's premise is that the nuclear family is a mistake and you can't be a feminist also while also supporting the nuclear family. It's quite obviously very radical, but is popular with a certain subset of culture in the world today, which is unfortunate because statistically, the nuclear family is good for everybody. Men and women are happier, children do better, all kinds of things. So, your premise is bunk, sir, ma'am. Now, she's demanding surrogacy, which is basically the state raising kids, because that's gonna turn out great. It's not like she's obviously never read Brave New World, because of course she hasn't. She also says that pregnancy is an extreme sport. This is ridiculous. Okay. Moving it on, she said roughly 1,000 people die of childbirth. And then she makes a point about how they're mostly poor and not white because identity politics. So, checking all the boxes, aren't we, lady? This situation is social, not simply natural. Things are like this for political and economic reasons. We made them this way. No, women have died in childbirth since, like, ever. It's much less common now, though, so that's good. So she imagines a future where making new human beings is shared among all of us, mother no longer being a natural category. Again, you haven't read Brave New World, have you? This will not end well, especially if you put the government in charge. So, stop. What she means by not caring for each other. So, when she wants to abolish the family, she wants to do that to create some kind of like socialist utopia. Um, okay. Then she goes on to talk about the evils of capitalism and how the nuclear family supports this. Okay, so you are a socialist. Ah, that explains a lot. No wonder you're so crazy. So she also says that maintaining the traditional family structure means the exploiting of non-white people and the disowning of queer children. Because of course it does. What else does it mean? It's not like, I don't know, there are any benefits to the current model. Lewis isn't concerned with incremental changes. She wants full surrogacy now. She so she's not planning anything realistic. She is painting a picture of her utopian future, which will never happen because if it does, it will be a dystopia, like Brave New World, which this lady clearly hasn't read. And I'm skipping over this part because it talks about her mother dying. This is pointless. It doesn't matter. Do. Okay, so and then it talks about how her father is an evil misogynist who doubts that that doubts she was raped at 13. So okay, okay. So her dad was bad to her, of course. And then she talks about how she signs up for a Marxist program at college. Okay, so this lady is just a first class moron. And that is quite enough of that. Thank you. Moving on to the mirror, because unfortunately for me, I live in the United States, so it's nowhere near as silly as the UK yet. This is a exclusive from the mirror. Britain's most modern family. Transgender man gives birth to non binary partner's baby with female sperm donor. Whoa, 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 let me read that headline one more time and see if I can make sense of it. Transgender man. Okay, so a woman. Okay, so transgender man gives birth to non binary partner's baby with female sperm donor. Even their doctor was transgender. Okay, so let me piece that together. The information about the doctor is unnecessary and completely irrelevant. What this headline should read is lesbian couple has child because with the help from a sperm donor. This is unnecessarily complicated because of course it is. I wonder if they're going to use this person's preferred pronouns. Proud dad Reuben Sharp tells Miracle today tells how he gave birth to a miracle baby in Britain's most modern family. Except it's a she, though, because if he gave birth, that means he still has the female anatomy. So stop. And if he still has the female anatomy, that must mean that his partner has the female anatomy. Otherwise, his partner would have been able to get him pregnant. So, lesbian couple has baby with help of sperm donor is the how this headline what this headline should read, and it shouldn't even be a headline. Okay, so he transitioned to a man at the age of 27, but he stopped taking testosterone at the age of 33. Okay, so you could have a baby. Sure, makes perfect sense. Jay is non-binary, so does not identify as male or female. Of course they don't. Or of course she doesn't because let's be honest, the only way it makes sense is if this Jay is a woman, if that's even your real name. The sperm donor was a trans woman, okay, so a man, and even the doctor was transgender. Why does that matter? Well, a handful of other UK men. Oh, Jesus, a hand. What that sentence should read is biological women who identify as men can get pregnant, which shouldn't be a shock to anybody because women can get pregnant. Then there's a picture of him getting like an ultrasound or something, and wish I could show you, but I'm not going to because you don't need to see that. So the kid's name is Jamie. If you had to bet how much, if I was a betting man, I would put money on this kid coming out to be some kind of trans or non-binary or homosexual because of course he would. Either that, or at some point in his life, he's going to sit his parents down, and say, "Dad," and parental unit. I'm not transgender. I'm straight and I'm cis. And when the child says this, of course, the parents are going to be very upset and wonder where it all went wrong. Mom's going to be, or dad's going to be crying and talking about how, oh man, we gave you plenty of soy. We took you to see RuPaul. What could we have done differently? And parental unit is just going to sit there and stare at you, wondering if they should disown you. Okay, and then it talks about how excited they are about having a kid. Okay, that's excellent. There's a picture of them together, and woman, woman. So yes, that should read lesbian couple has child from a sperm donor. Okay, that's good. Oh, and this kid, I think it's a boy. Who knows? I mean, I bet they tried to keep the kid's gender off the birth certificate. So I don't know why we had to have fucking stories like this. It doesn't matter. No one cares. Literally nobody cares. I mean, I'm sure there are some people out there who are lapping the shit up, but your average person sees this and goes, and I'm interested in this because, Lord, let's see. Is there anything else? Okay, so this guy pretty much talks about how his about how testosterone, um, about how being on male hormones can affect his fertility because, duh. Anyone who knows any endocrinologist worth their salt will tell you, yes, you can go on cross hormone therapy, but there is a high likelihood that it will sterilize you for life. So, stop being a dickhead. Talking about how you're not special. You're not special. Okay, you're just like every other person who has gone through. You're just like every other person who has tried to have a kid after going through hormone therapy. It's the same kind of deal no matter what gender you are. Hormone therapy, it's highly likely that it sterilizes you. But moving on. Okay, so Jay and Ruben chose to have an IUI. Okay, so the sperm was inserted by a doctor. Of course it was. Yeah, as opposed to the sperm being inserted by a person ob- as, during sex, obviously. So the first round, and then talks about how it struggled. Okay, the struggles. Okay, moving on. Hope that, in all seriousness, I hope this kid doesn't have a messed up childhood. Like, okay, his parents, his parents have all kind. His dad, mom, whatever. I mean, he's not coming into an ideal situation exactly because you can tell these are the kinds of people who are going to push their social and political issues onto him. Because in cases like this, my motto is let kids be kids. And it's just a really long story about stuff that I don't really care about. Okay, it doesn't make a woman less. Okay, and then it talks about how pregnancy isn't the only unique factor to a woman. Okay, don't care. And our last story, which is also about Britain, because, like I said, they've got some fucked up shit going on in that wonderful land across the pond. Let's see. So, if you're an American, you won't know this, but the Labour Party, which is the left-wing party in Britain, their leader stepped down. So they're having a leadership race to see who will be the new head of the party because yeah, that's kind of how British politics work. I don't really understand it either, but anyway, a candidate in the battle to replace Jeremy Corbyn, he was the old Labour Party leader, Lisa Nandy. So she's a member of parliament. Anyway, let's get to her statement. She says, biological men who identify as women should be allowed into all female prisons, regardless of the crimes that they have committed. So, on the face of it, that may not seem that bad, but consider this. You will be putting people who are serving time for rape, child molesting, basically guys who are, yeah, just terrible, terrible people, putting them in a position where they can exploit even more people because they feel a certain way. Uh, I know the real reason these guys don't want to go to a male prison. It's because rapists, no, regardless of if they're child rapists or just regular rapists, do not fare well in prison. They are raped, ironically, on principle. And I'm sure you heard the story about the guy who killed two child rapists in a California jail recently. That happens a lot. So that's why they want to go to the female prison, because the females prisoners aren't going to kill them or rape them, ironically. And it says trans women and trans men are real women and men and should be accommodated in the prison of their choosing. Yeah, because we just let convicted criminals choose where they go to prison. Makes sense. God damn. See, this is what happens when you disarm the populace. Shit like this shouldn't happen. But the people of the United Kingdom aren't going to do anything about it because they can't even have guns. I mean, shoot, you can't buy sets of Thomas the Tank Engine cutlery without without some proof that you're over 18. I hope this lady loses. She would turn Britain, which is already kind of a hellhole, into an even bigger one. But unrelated, I am starting a movement. I've been inspired by these stories that I'm reading on this channel. And the movement is the Annex UK movement. I'm going to start a hashtag on Twitter with my Twitter account. The hashtag will be hashtag Annex Britain. Share it with your friends. Because obviously, it would be, obviously, everybody in Britain would have their lives drastically improved if we took over. Okay, and then this lady is accusing all of her opponents being TERFs, which means trans exclusionary radical feminist. I mean, all of her opponents in the Labour Party, sure. Everybody who isn't super far left is opposing this because it makes no sense. They're not a TERF, they're just anti putting rapists in prison with people who they raped. Anyway, that's quite enough of that. Like I said in the last video, and I'll say it again, send me anything you want to see me cover or make fun of, and I'm going to end with the poem. In the current year, if you're white, you live in fear, unless you're lesbian, gay, or queer. And so I cry sometimes when I'm lying in bed.